Hi guys, Pimax has a bit of a reputation for over-promising and under-delivering. The Pimax Crystal Light is no exception and has experienced more than a few problems over the past year. But that isn't the end of the story, so let's drill into how it's performed for me over the past year and a little bit, the problems I and others have encountered, and answer the question, is it worth your hard-earned pennies? So let's start with the elephant in the room, quality control. It has been Pimax's nemesis on this, the Super and previous headsets. I've seen plenty of complaints about dead pixels, faulty screens and misshapen lenses. Pimax has been pretty good with trying to fix these issues, but it's deeply frustrating if you have faulty unit after faulty unit, especially as these headsets are still quite an outlay. Moving on from the big nasty problems, the headsets themselves have minor issues, leading to light bleed, movement of your IPD settings when you're racing, and some issues with the face gaskets not seating properly. This isn't terrible, but it is annoying. This results in hacks, third-party additions and workarounds being necessary. The IPD movement is particularly annoying as an overlay appears and blocks your vision, usually at a crucial moment during a race. I've mitigated this through modifying the ping files so the backgrounds are transparent, but this issue really shouldn't exist in the first place and comes back with every Pimax Play update. When you're in the sweet spot, then the Crystal Light is great. Getting and staying there though isn't so easy. Sure, the lens configuration offers a fairly large window for clarity, but the chromatic aberrations border on terrible when you're out of a very narrow central view. As a seated simulator user, it's easier to stay there than it is with other VR pursuits, but it still means you're fiddling with the headset a lot more than you should be. Studio Form offers a fix for this, but that's an extra expense. We'll be covering the Apache head strap in another video. Software is probably where Pimax has improved the most in the time I've had the Crystal Light. Pimax Play now offers built-in XR support, so no longer are you downloading an unsupported user-made tool. The headset no longer crashes the PC if you need to restart it. The sound levels have improved massively too. They've somewhat fixed the built-in FSR, though in some titles this still behaves weirdly. These are all great improvements, but some issues creep in at times, so it is best to not update without first consulting Reddit or Discord. However, those updates I've chosen to install, I've not been disappointed with the improvements. In fact, the latest release at the time of writing, 1.18, inside-out tracking is so close to the performance of Lighthouse tracking that it rendered me speechless in testing. Sure, it still isn't on par with the Lighthouse faceplate, but remember this doesn't require additional hardware to operate. Tracking was the weak spot for the Crystal Light. In fact, I was going to go off on a tangent talking about my time spent setting up the cupboard. But we're not in the cupboard now, and Pimax have mostly sorted out the tracking issues. I now use a Lighthouse faceplate, but in the garage, I don't really need it. And this is all thanks to the tracking improvements. Does it still have problems? Yes. There is no getting away from the fact that cameras on the headset aren't great, but it now only uses a little more resource than the outside-in faceplate, and during good lighting conditions, it's generally pretty responsive. Initially, the sound was probably the weakest part of this headset. I opted for the DMAS upgrade and was disappointed to have the same issue. Very quiet volume levels. Thankfully, a firmware update has fixed this, and now you can crank up the sound to almost deafening levels. It still doesn't match the Quest 3 with the standard audio kit, but is acceptable, offering enough punch to sense those cars around you on track. With the DMAS upgrade, it's very nearly a match for the Valve Index or HB Reverb G2. There is also a headphone jack if you're not a fan of these over-ear arrangements. Last complaint, honest, IPD again. So that weak IPD adjustment I spoke about earlier, well, it has gotten worse over time. The wheel that supposedly is used to adjust this stopped working. I didn't realize that until I was demonstrating SimVR to friends, and that was decidedly awkward. I can still manually adjust this, but can no longer reliably hit the IPD sweet spot. As the headset is out of warranty, I'll just have to live with this for the time being. This is the first of this kind of issue I've experienced in almost a decade of running VR. When it is all working as intended and you're not dropping out of that sweet spot or facing tracking issues or the IPD adjuster going crazy, the Pimax Crystal Light is absolutely fantastic, especially at this price point. With the sound fixes, it is no longer quiet and actually is quite reasonable with the stock audio, though I would recommend getting the DMAS upgrade at some point. Sometimes the detail you can see in game boggles the mind, even after years of being a VR racer. Those curve details, those track features, they really pop on the Crystal Light, and that makes all those initial issues seem insignificant. This resolution does feel like the sweet spot right now between visual excellence and performance, with sims like iRacing being able to drive the display at 90 frames a second fairly comfortably with a 4090. Pimax have created a wonderful headset here. It's perhaps the best I've used to date. When all is working, especially at this price point. The visuals are fantastic, and with things like the DMAS audio upgrade and the Studio Form VR Wear kit, you can enjoy it at its very best without wiggling around to get in the sweet spot. Indeed, that latter upgrade you also likely won't be hindered by the weak IPD adjustment, as the headset won't be resting on your nose so much. The build quality is not the best, which is a shame when you're handing over so many notes. As mentioned earlier, the IPD adjuster likes to change itself with a wiggle of your nose, and the mechanism for moving it is fragile. The face gasket has light bleed from where it joins the headset, and the facial fit could be better. The real kicker though is the lens problem that Pimax has had with this and the Super. Noise on the issue seems to have died down, but these issues do stop me short of recommending the headset wholeheartedly. Having a lottery on something as important as the lenses and build quality is not on. Sure, you can go through an RMA process, but that is time consuming and frustrating for something you've already paid for. Pimax has adopted additional quality assurance checks, so hopefully that mitigates the issue somewhat, albeit with further delays. If you do go ahead and take the risk with this, the reward is a fantastic visual treat that will make your races look beautiful, even if your driving isn't always. One more concern I have as a Pimax owner here: they have a habit of abandoning previous generations of products for the new and shiny. It happened with the 5K, the 8K, and the original Pimax Crystal. Now the Light is a very popular headset, so this might not happen with the release of the Super and beyond, but it is still something I have at the back of my mind. Let's also not forget that I've had part failures already after only a year. So a great headset, but not an unequivocal recommendation due to the issues many users have faced. Now I hope you've enjoyed this video running through my experiences with the Pimax Crystal Light over the past year and a bit. If you have, please give this video a thumbs up, and I'd really like to see you guys again, so mash that subscribe button, and until next time, bye bye for now.